And then it was all over. 4 weeks and 450 kilometres later, 14 tired but quietly jubilant hikers crossed the River Murray to the Tom Groggin station.
That effort in 1983 ignited the challenge of Long Walk 2, a history-making attempt to take over at Tom Groggin and break new ground in Australian hiking. Rob Charlesworth, hike leader for 23 young walkers from Victoria's Guiding and Scouting Associations, sees the expedition as a natural progression of the first.
When we looked at doing another major expedition, the concept of continuing on where we left off from previous Long Walk was a good idea. Well, most people thought it was, and the fact is the Long Walk 2 logo fitted in with the extension of continuing the actual walk. In other words, to continue on from where we left off seemed the most logical step. And therefore, we decided to look at the idea of running from Tom Groggin, which is a finishing point of the previous walk, through to Katoomba, the Blue Mountains.
Christmas 1985 and 18 months of planning, fitness training and practice hikes are about to be tested against the real thing. Television viewers in Melbourne and Sydney soon became aware of the plan.
Sounds like an average sort of weather for a group of young Melbourne Scouts and Girl Guides who set off today on a trek which will take them through some of Australia's most rugged alpine terrain. And before we say goodnight, Mark Gillies has a look at that story.
Today's final preparations followed 18 months of training and planning for the 5-week hike, aptly labelled the Long Walk. The group of 24 Venturer Scouts, Ranger Guides and their leaders gathered at Doncaster for a final briefing before setting off. The 600-kilometre expedition will take the group from Tom Groggin at the edge of the Kosciuszko National Park in New South Wales, across some of our most picturesque mountain country to the national capital. From Canberra, they'll head northeast through the Canungra Boyd and Blue Mountains National Parks to Katoomba. Party leader Rob Charlesworth believes the group, aged between 15 and 18, is well prepared for the tough conditions they'll encounter.
Go from the alpine country into flat, boring country, so to speak, will be very difficult for them over a period of 5 weeks.
But today the group was taking it easy and travelling by minibus on the first leg of its expedition from Melbourne to the state border, where tomorrow their adventure will begin in earnest.
Back on the bridge, while hell to here 3 years ago, how difficult would it be tackling this longer, more demanding trek?
The actual walking was not ambitious because I felt positive that we could handle that. If you just take the walking side of it alone, that was well within our capabilities. It was a pretty daunting task, I suppose, looking back to have a having 40 or 50 people involved in the expedition, all volunteer organisations, to spend 18 months virtually, 3, 4, 5 nights a week on it, to a considerable toll. But the actual walking side, we were confident we could handle.
Well, it didn't hit me until Boxing Day. I thought 5 weeks, and then it hit me straight bang flat in the face. I thought, oh no, what have I let myself in for? But at the beginning I thought, okay, I'll take it a week at a time, but I thought if I got through the first few days I'd probably do the lot. But I was very surprised at the end that I did do it.
I wanted to get it over and done with all the hassles it was for the last 2 or 3 months. It was just, it started to get me really revved up that I was going to feel like pulling out or get it over and done with, because it got so tensed up about it and everything had to be done.
What a way to start. Main range via Dead Horse Gap and up to Kosciuszko. Heavy packs, hard walking and high altitudes. How about that preparation now?
Yeah, well, I was definitely mentally prepared for it, and I think I was fairly, as good as anybody else, prepared physically. I hadn't carried, I think I was carrying about 22 kilo on the first day, and I hadn't carried that much before, but I found I didn't have any problems or had far less problems than a lot of other people had.
Looking around Kosciuszko and you think, oh yeah, it's good, but you didn't really comprehend that you still had, you had sort of 5 weeks hiking ahead of you. You never really got the full idea, I think, until, probably halfway through that you sort of, how long it was actually going to be, what the strain was. And well, I hadn't had much experience in hiking, and that was my biggest worry, that perhaps I wouldn't be able to hike as well as everybody else. I didn't have as much experience and knowledge about some of the cooking methods and different things like that, but everybody helps, and you just learn so much of other people so quickly. And yeah, I really liked the scenery in the first week because I hadn't seen much snow. It was quite different.
So were some of the skiing efforts.
Good with the first week, we'd get to camp and we'd go around, climb up to the highest area point in the camp, around the area, and just, have a look at the sunset and things like that.
At least from Schlink's Pass on, fires could be lit, conserving stove fuel for a while. Already 2 of the hikers had been taken out. Ross, one of the cameramen with back trouble, and Peter, the director, with the flu. Wayne's feet were badly blistered, but he painfully decided to go on.
I expect that within the first few days if we're going to have any major injuries, we'd probably have them then, because the body had not adjusted to carrying X amount of kilograms on their back. And even though we do practice walks and try and prepare ourselves, it's nothing's like the real thing. And I think there's a lot of nervous energy burned up in the first few days. So if anybody's really going to come down being sick or have an injury, there's a good chance or a good likelihood that's what would happen the first few days. So.
That's where the support crew role was crucial. How did they handle taking out the injured hikers?
That was probably the hardest part. Obviously they've been with the hikers for the length of time that they were there, and the heartbreak. You really did share in the heartbreak of the walkers coming out. It was a very, very personal time for them, and very hard not to intrude on their feelings. And yet I think if we had have left them stewing their own juices, that would have hurt them, so we had to try and get them out of that, and in most cases I think we did. They had to go back in. Most of them went back in pretty happy, and that was the main thing.
Day 5 and the climb to Mount Jagungal, the high point of the week in more ways than one. Mind-boggling scenery, mammoth peaks, mentally and physically on top. But everything has its price. A scrub-bashing descent, hard slogging on fire trails and fording freezing rivers leaves the body and mind bruised and hankering for relief. Eucumbene provided it, the first R&R day, where blisters were popped, sore shoulders soothed and uptight walkers unwound.
This will make all the difference to the weekend.
Finish it off. Put it out of its misery.
Go and do it.
How much do you want? Hope you don't mind if it's black.
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 On brown boots.
Yep.
And happy birthday to Rose.
We had trouble, we said you had trouble with that curl.
How do you reckon you're going to go for the rest of the walk? You reckon you'll make it?
Yeah, hopefully I'll make it, you know, if nothing buggers up on me. At the moment I'll make it, because, you know, I'm fit and well at the moment, but anything can happen to you on the hike while you're hiking. It's like you can twist your ankle or bust a bone or something. You just can't tell if anything's going to happen.
Week 2. A 6-day walk out of the Kosciuszko National Park and into Canberra. A gradual descent of 500 metres. More casualties. Shirley had given up the pace to join the support crew. Flu grounded Andrew. And Duncan, at Oldfield's hut, he had to be taken out with a stress fracture of the foot.
Oh, it's quite ironic, you know. It just happened to happen to me at the time. And there's nothing much you could do about it. I should have been wearing boots instead of my sneakers. But I felt my feet needed a rest, and it's a risk you have to take. I was very down, you know, thinking of youth hiking and how good it would be, and support crew. I was still good, but I've already had a taste of it, and a taste of what the hiking was like. You know, I wanted to get back in there. You know, I was just worried that I wouldn't. I put so much time into going on the hike.
Sunday service as usual. Flies, heat and grot. Ingenious ways to deal with them. A swim in the Murrumbidgee. Or a spell in Dave Peggy's bath.
I've been to Canberra before and I didn't like it, and I didn't like it the second time around. It was a bit hard to cope with, the big change between the walking that we'd done in the bush and then all of a sudden into a sort of buildings and, you know, traffic. Traffic was the hardest thing. But I really look forward to Canberra because I've never been there before. And you know, I thought, oh wow, Canberra, you know, nearly halfway there. But no, it was really good. I felt sort of a great big feeling of accomplishment walking up to Parliament House. So even though I hadn't finished, it was still a lot for me to say, I've done 2 weeks, you know.
We had a guard of honour of scouts coming back from the Jamboree who happened to actually come from Geelong.
It's a really funny feeling, especially because of the reception, the great reception we got in Canberra. It sort of felt like it was meant to be the end, but you knew you had to keep going after that.
Week 3, Triple B. Boredom blisters and bungonia. In 35-degree heat, there wasn't much else on the mind.
Hated having no trees and no hills and no green grass and no water and traffic and hard roads, and my feet blistered really badly. And it was a really disgusting week because of all these things, but at the same time it was really valuable because it was sort of an endurance thing, and I did make it through and I wasn't sure I would.
The hardest thing was actually walking with the cars going beside you, and you're walking along this railway track and you can see a big lake about 5 kilometres away, and there's a car driving off towards it, and you're just about dying of dehydration. That's what it felt like. And there's these cars that's driving off to this lake, and if you're in one of those cars, it'd take you 5 minutes, but as soon as you're going to walk that way, it'd take you now to get over there, now to get back, and you've lost about 3 hours in time. So.
I think it was just basically keeping going. It's sort of getting above it mentally was probably harder than getting above it physically. It's a couple of times I sort of looked back and sort of started to question why I was out here. But
6 days walking had to be done in 5.
It was something we knew we had to get through, and everybody, when they rose in the morning, knew they had to go from A to B that particular day, and they worked well because of that. It was very hot. It was uncomfortable walking because it was walking on graded roads and flat terrain and grass, and you had paddocks and private property. But they got off their butts early in the morning and really moved, and we did the majority of walking in the morning, and we approached it that week on that sort of attitude, and we got through a lot easier than probably what we thought we would.
There were even problems with the water. Support crews stepped in.
Harry came in with the water, and it was just horrendous, and Andrew had to go out that day as well. And I mean, there's nothing to look at, and we got to the campsite and just sort of plunged in this stagnant water, which was so horrible. And then there was just sort of nothing to look at, nothing, just, and all those trucks going past it. It was the worst day ever.
HSC results for Marita and Paul, just before Marita went out injured.
It was quite upsetting, but then you look back on it and it's sort of, you don't really feel that you've missed that much because it was only 1 day's walking. But it was sort of a matter of having to pull out or not being able to complete the rest for the 2 weeks.
Duncan and Diana rejoined the group just in time for the thunderstorm.
Oh, I thought it was funny that we just had a big water drop, and just as we were walking up to the water drop, it rained the heaviest it did before in the whole bloody walk. It rained about twice on the hike, and that was one of the times. That was pretty crazy.
When we came to meet them, they were just really, really tired. Their spirits were really, really low, and there was sort of not very much interaction or anything amongst them. They were just so desperate for a break.
The Ellerslie R&R was a must.
Without them, I don't know what we would have done. I would have collapsed. They were probably, you sort of think, okay, I've got 4 more days to the R&R day, you know, I can last.
Suffering from exhaustion, Peter collapsed and was to miss the next week's hiking. Trevor would be the lone cameraman for the next stage of the walk.
No, thank you.
There was even time to round up sheep distressed by recent bushfires. Week 4, and now into the terrain that bushwalking's really about.
sign of the terrain starting to become rather steep, and crossing the Wellington rivers, seeing in the distance that the Canberra National Park improved people's morale quite dramatically. I think they were pretty sick of camping next to cow packs most of the night and sort of crossing over and under fences, alley bases.
Radio contact became increasingly important.
We had 3 radios. On a daily basis, we appointed a day coordinator whose responsibility was to appoint a whip, someone at the rear to look after any stragglers, and someone at the front to make sure we're on the right direction. Also, the day coordinator's responsibility was to make sure we went from A to B in a particular day. The radios came into their own because you could communicate with the whip or the point, and to ensure that everybody was kept within a group.
Another problem with polluted water.
It was a concern because we really hadn't done all that much reconnaissance in that area in that particular time of the year. Therefore, we didn't know whether the streams in that area were either had water running in them or either were polluted. So it was a concern, and it was a case where some of the streams were heavily polluted, which had its toll later on the walk.
Support crew were on the go for many reasons.
Towards the end of the 4th week, where we had tried to make contact because we were in need of some Puritabs and some probably bottled soft drinks. They came at the right time because we needed a morale boost. There was a couple of people there, one particularly who was sick and needed to really be taken out. And you know, they're turning up for that particular time was a blessing in disguise, and they did the job excellently, and we couldn't ask for any better support.
When I actually dropped out, I felt quite fine, better than I felt all that week, but I still dropped out. Just to let the hike party really keep on going at its own pace. I would have been slower. I also probably wouldn't have been able to tackle the 5th week. But it's pretty sad. I think I coped okay while the hikers were there, while we were saying goodbye and all the rest. But after everyone went, sort of a few cheers here and there. After walking 8 weeks in one direction, having to stop out for 40k or something like that, it was a bit disappointing.
Due to a migraine, Stuart was forced out too. This problem returned in the last week to cost him a further 2 days. By the 4th R&R, Tomat Creek, the washing machine had worked well and truly overtime.
A lot of people laughed at us dragging a washing machine halfway around Australia, but it was almost a necessity. And the washing for the whole hike party took 2 to 3 days to complete. The washing machine just went non-stop.
This last R&R was great.
Everyone pulled together and there wasn't so much pressure. Everyone sort of got along so well. The setting was really lovely, and we had the 1 week ahead of us, and you could already see that scenery was just gorgeous and everything worked well. And there was this really huge raging fire. I like those things.
Take it and see how we go. There's no alternative around.
Like I said, we found that track yesterday. Walking in an area.
Not really very popular at all. Yeah, I'd say that's pretty well walk.
This is pretty
popular. I think it's just a very popular walking route. It's basically the only route you can go. Alright, so that'd be our way to fly. I think
it's got to be, it's got to be.
Yeah, I don't think it'll be.
Week 5, the final haul, and all casualties back on deck.
It was a great relief to get in the Blue Mountains because we all had a good time once we got in there because there was rivers to go swimming in, things like that, great places to go to.
It's pretty difficult, very rugged terrain. If anybody's walked in the Canberra National Park will know what it's like to walk up and down the spurs. Getting geographically embarrassed for a short period, so that was a bit of interest to it. But I think most people thought probably the last week's walking was probably the highlight of the trip. And because it just offered such fantastic views, I think we really got into what walking's all about that last week.
So good, it's just such an ace view. And so fantastic scenery. The long slogs up the hill still got me, but it was a lot easier when you had something to get up to the top for. Everyone, I really think, pulled together more as a team in that last week, and everyone seemed to be getting along much better. We just knew that, you know, Katoomba was just over these few mountains, and we were just striving to get there. It was really good.
It was hard because it was fairly steep and rugged after what we're used to, just along the flat, but difficult in the sense of navigating. That seems like in the mornings there's a lot more cloud about and things like that, so it made it hard to visibility and navigating with compass and map work, and that sort of thing. But apart from that, just a different sort of climate because it got a lot colder and a bit wetter, that sort of thing. The scenery and that made up for the difficulty.
That last night was probably the most spectacular night we've had. Best camp spot, perched up on top of a cliff, and the sunset and the sunrise are the best for the whole walk. And it was a bit sad to be leaving that after 5 weeks because you get so used to the scenery and being out in the bush, you just want to stay there, or I did anyway.
That was a good night, yeah, that's right, you could see the lights of the town, which was the first time really we'd been in the bush and could see town, but it didn't matter, and the moon was out and it was lovely weather and everyone was there and it was really sort of laid back and sad too. I mean, I felt sad.
(12:15 p.m, January 30th. Only half an hour off schedule, history was made. Up the steps at Echo Point to a welcome from friends, family, and the director of the Blue Mountains Tourist Authority. And how did they feel?
It was so unreal in that we'd been 5 weeks bushwalking, mainly bushwalking, and then we come to Katoomba and like walking up steps even was strange, and then you get up the top and there's all these people and pavement, and I hated it really because it was just hard to deal with.
It's pretty much like a school like thing. You know, we've done or shared all these experiences together it's pretty hard living with a group of people and then all of a sudden you're going your separate ways. So that was pretty hard.
It sort of left a real empty feeling once you walked up on there to that Echo Point. You stood and stopped and looked back over from where you walked, and thinking back, you walked sort of approximately 600 k's in 5 weeks and it felt like a lifetime.
Even though I hadn't walked, I felt a sense of achievement.
I wanted to turn around and go back. I didn't want to go into Katoomba. I would have liked to have kept going. You just got into a rank life. Even though I was in the country, just being out in the bush is the best thing out as far as I'm concerned.
I just feel it's magnificent, all the best stuff in the world.
The 9, I think, that got through without losing a day were very lucky. They could have lost one quite easily.
Personally, I had a bit of a lump in my throat and a tear in my eye when I saw them walking up there. I was pretty pleased for the hikers that they'd achieved that. It was certainly no mean feat.
So what were the pluses for those involved?
And I gained a lot of experience on how to organise and how to participate and how to be involved in a large expedition, and I got a lot of confidence knowing that
if I can handle going on such a thing for such a distance, it gave me confidence to plan other things.
Well, the main reason for me going on the walk was for experience and to see the country. And, you know, I got a lift from all the great scenery around, and photography gave me something to do. And also it was a medium through which I could record the places I've been and the scenery I saw.
I think it's learning to live with people your own age. Because, I mean, you live with a family at home and they're all different ages. You've got to cooperate with everyone, and everyone's got to get along fine, and you've got to accept everyone for how they are.
I got a fair bit out of the hike. I think the main thing though was experiencing living with other people and experience on going on a large sort of scale expedition sort of thing. That next time you'll be able to, you know, you get the pick up the experience and leadership ability, and hopefully be able to do something like that yourself.
I think Long Walk 2 was more of a challenge to me than Long Walk 1 because I knew just precisely what you had to go through to finish the hike. I think I had a bit more of an understanding of the people. I learned perhaps a little bit more of the same lessons that I'd learned on Long Walk 1.
You gave some young people a taste of what it's like to be involved in a really challenging expedition of this nature. And it was a challenge. For ourselves, it's a pretty arduous task to walk for 5 weeks carrying your food on your back and living out there. I think it's developed people's characters and definitely got people probably more enthused about outdoor expeditions.
It's something which I believe is unique.
We've reached our goal, we've gone for the ultimate, we've made the ultimate.
I got home and I couldn't describe it to anyone. You know, you just say, oh, it's ace or something like that. But you can't explain it, you had to be there, I would say.